Well, China's President Xi Jinping may be facing unrest at home, but there is no noticeable shift in his determination to take Taiwan, despite meeting world leaders in recent weeks. As Investigations reporter Jonathan Lee found out on a recent trip to Taiwan, if the island democracy was to fall, it would give China's growing submarine fleet a deadly advantage in the region.
Fighters, frigates and flotillas, all made for war. China's Navy now numbers a staggering 355 vessels. It's grown so quickly, analysts consider the country's rise unlike anything seen in several centuries. At the heart of its militarisation is a conviction to correct what it views as a century of humiliation at the hands of the West. The Communist Party is focused on what it understatedly calls the reunification of Taiwan, reconnecting by force if needs be a clutch of democratic islands off its east coast, which broke away in 1949 after the Civil War, as its then leader retreated. But Taiwanese officials warned the taking of Taiwan would alter the current world order.
The current world order is not it's not stable. The tensions will only escalate.
Our head is not in the mouth of the tiger yet.
Alexander Huang is part of the KMT, Taiwan's nationalist opposition party.
If Taiwan is in the hands of the Western democracy, then China would not have maritime defense. They will never feel safe.
On the other side of the world is retired Air Vice Marshal Sean Bell. The UK has watched in shock as Beijing turned contested reefs into illegal bases.
Why are they doing that? Well, they're doing that because as soon as you have a bit of land that's your territory, you've now got territorial waters 12 miles around that shore. And in that, that's effectively your territory. You control it. Another 12 miles out to 24 miles, you've now got, by international law, lots of influence in that area. And then you go out to 200 miles, and that means you have control over the fisheries, the minerals, and all of that sort of rights. And actually what this underlines is China's ambition isn't to take over little islands. What it is to dominate large parts of the world.
That expansion relies on controlling the underwater world. While Australia has 6 submarines, China has many, many more.
I believe they've got 66 at the moment. They're expecting another 10 by the end of the decade.
Experts say that's why Taiwan is so important. At its narrowest, the Taiwanese Strait is just 130 kilometres wide. It's also shallow, often only 50 metres deep, leaving the shadows of Chinese submarines potentially visible from above as they return to port, unable to be heard.
They're exposed throughout that whole time. The longer the submarine is on or near the surface, the longer that people can listen to it and understand its signature.
By contrast, Taiwan's east coast sits on the edge of the continental shelf, giving it access to water between 3,000 and 5,000 metres deep. If China controlled Taiwan, it would mean
they would have much easier access to the Pacific, much swifter access to the deep water, and therefore would massively enhance the capability of their nuclear submarine fleet.
Experts believe China also harbours serious ambitions of carving out the mountains beside Taiwan's Suao base and turning it into something that resembles this infamous Russian Cold War submarine base in Crimea, which was designed to refit 7 submarines and deliver a retaliatory nuclear blow. Then there's the issue of trade.
If China owns Taiwan, that means that the People's Liberation Army can control the shipping lane or energy supply of Japan and Korean Peninsula. It would be a total disaster for the entire regional security.
Potentially allowing the Chinese Communist Party to cut off shipments of Aussie coal and gas to Japan. Xi Jinping has already declared he wants his military ready to take Taiwan by 2027. Dr. Chai Chang is from Taiwan's National Policy Foundation. He calculates a Chinese invasion force would number 500,000 people.
So you're saying 500,000 people in total and 60 to 70,000
first wave
in the first wave
to landing.
He suspects China is still some time off being ready. A senior former Taiwanese military officer who asked not to be identified has told Sky News it would take an American fleet 3 days to arrive. To prevent Chinese forces completely encircling the island, he believes the US would hide not one but two nuclear submarines in deep water, one off the northeast coast, the other off the southeast coast of the island. Still, any arrival could take days before American forces could protect Taiwan's back.
There's a period of time there where you're in trouble.
Big trouble.
Unlike in the Ukraine, there would be nowhere for Taiwan's population of 23 million people to escape to. It would also be isolated, preventing resupply. For that reason,
next year's national defense budget will rise 14%.
The 14% rise will take Taiwan's defence budget to around 28 billion Aussie dollars. But that's still well under Australia's $49 billion defence budget.
Taiwan is the stronghold and hope for our regional security, and we need all the support that we can get.
Do you think Australians realise that?
I believe so.
The island democracy hopes so, as two navies stare off across the strait. Jonathan Lee, Sky News.